So sometimes what happens is we speak from only one center of expression because our personality profile, for example, is more prone to be a thinker, or your work, the work you've done all your life has made you overthink, right? So then we start to communicate with just using our expression of thinking. And so the voice starts to sound very robotic, and it cuts in, it cuts out. There's no expression on the face. The body can be very, very still. Monotone is one of those things. It sounds robotic and clinical because it's just coming from the head. And some of our roles and jobs really encourage that, and they need that. But when it's used in communication, we need to be using our thinking, our heart, and our gut. So there are 3 center of expressions and 3 brains, depending on your personality type. Some of us are in our thinking, some of us are in our heart space, and some of us are predominantly in the gut, in the body. Now, when you're just functioning one of those things, it's not complete. And so there's some lacking. And that's why we've got teams, by the way, and everybody functions from their center of expression. But as a person, holistically, we're trying to evolve in being able to use all 3 of those expressions. Now, a lot of this training comes from a model called the Enneagram, which is the ego types. And there are 9 ego types. 3 of them are in the thinking, 3 of them in the heart, and 3 of them are in the body. And the lines on the Enneagram, by the way, nobody owns the Enneagram. I use Integrative 9 to assess my clients to see where they show up. But the lines push you into using all 3 centers of expression. So those that are speaking just in the mind, using their thinking, they're very logical, very analytical. They're always looking for the steps. They tend to stop and start when they speak like this, or the voice sounds always the same, because there's a lot of thinking going on and not enough breathing. In fact, the breath stops when you're thinking too much. It sort of cuts in and out. And in a room, when you're running a board meeting or you're talking to people, their breath stops too. So obviously people tend to feel very anxious, generally speaking, because their breath unconsciously is stopping and starting. Now, what we want to do is also feel. So really what we want is the heart should be informing the mind. Now, the mind can go back to the heart too. And like even putting a hand on your heart or on the stomach, your gut, is to sort of go, what does this feel like, what I'm saying? What does it feel like in my body? What's it feeling like? Well, how can I sense it in the room with others? How do I body read and read some of those gestures in people's faces? Are they with me? Are they absorbing this? Because as we know, communication is also non-verbal. So there's a lot of information coming from gestures and eye contact and hand movements, voice tone, all of that. And some people do it better than others because they're coming from their heart or their gut. So if they're in the gut, the body, then they use their expression a lot more. You'll see I'm much more in the gut. That's why I use my hands, my face. The heart is more about feeling the compassion, the empathy around what you say, the application to human needs, the feeling of it, the need of it, the metaphor of it. How does it become a big picture? Whereas the mind can be big picture, but it can be very analytical and detailed and compressed and tight, whereas the heart opens up, the expansion, the possibilities, you start to see more space. So all of that affects the voice and the breath, okay? So the breath is what is impacted when we're using different parts of those centers of expression. The thinking, stop, start, stop, start. The heart tends to be breathy and always legato and not as powerful. The gut is power, strength, sometimes too pushy and too flamboyant, okay? And the thinking's too concentrated, restricted, limited. So we want to just be dancing around all 3 by noticing other people that do these things, putting yourself in their shoes, trying different activities in our lives like dancing, movement, art, more body work like karate or qigong, something that moves the body in communication, acting, And then the analytical in corporate goes on for sure. Most of the times it's the way we're trained in schools.